Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here with all of you. It has been quite a year, hasn't it? Today is what, October 24th? If we look back 1 year, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary since ChatGPT was released. Now, we all know that the technology behind ChatGPT has existed for many years before that, but the arrival of ChatGPT certainly brought a lot of attention to the topic. Attention from perhaps your children, perhaps your relatives, probably your CEO, maybe your board of directors as well. What are we doing about AI? And of course, that attention is possible that it might change things. It changes your priorities. It changes perhaps the way that you think about AI and analytics in the enterprise. As they wrote, perhaps attention is all you need. But in this presentation, what I want to be talking to you about is a little bit about Dataiku, about where we've come, because also this year, Dataiku is celebrating 10 years of existence, which is quite a milestone for a company of our scale. I want to talk about where that vision started, where it is today with our recent product announcements, and of course, where it's going, especially with our latest product roadmap around generative AI, but not only, because of course, the story is much bigger and remains much bigger, even with this exciting new technology out there for all of us. So yes, that's me. I'm Kurt, happy to be speaking here with all of you. Let's start though with Dataiku's vision. What is Dataiku's vision? Looking back 10 years, it was perhaps almost simple, naive even, overly ambitious though in that naivete. We wanted to bring together data scientists and data analysts in a common platform, right? Something very simple. I happened to meet an investor in Paris where Dataiku was founded recently. And he told me recently, I looked at Dataiku 8, 9, 10 years ago, and I passed on it. I said, this is a terrible idea. You can't build a common tool for very different personas, very different people. It's not possible. But of course, we didn't listen to that person, and we went ahead and we did it. So we wanted to build a bridge, a common platform between those two very different users. Get those two people working together. It was a very narrow focus, right? Looking at a team, how they might be able to work differently. But then, of course, that expanded, considering how we can go from experimentation and into production. So Dataiku was also seeking to bridge that gap as well, to cover the distance, close the distance between your design environments and your production environments. When we were founded in 2013, of course, a lot of the technology was on premises. Hadoop on premise was kind of the state of the art at that time. Cloud was coming about, and of course, now today the cloud transition is in full swing, not complete. And of course, there will always remain on-premise workloads. We fully anticipate that as well. And so, of course, Dataiku is also focused on bridging that gap between the cloud and your on-premises environment. There's, of course, many different ways that you can work with these technologies, from full code all the way out to low and no code. Dataiku has had that from the beginning. And importantly, perhaps last of all, Dataiku sees the ways, the techniques that we use to get value out of data, from analytics through to machine learning, all the way out to artificial intelligence, and now, of course, generative artificial intelligence. We see that as a spectrum, right? We see that as a spectrum on which you can do something with your data to benefit your business. And the importance of building these bridges is that you go from having a fragmented island landscape where you have one set of tools for your data scientists, another set of tool for your business analysts, one set of tool for your on-premise workloads, another set of tools for your cloud workloads. And you can bring that together in a single common platform. What that does for you is it has a tendency of democratizing the work of data science, since you have this common environment. It accelerates the work of everybody. It accelerates the work of teams. And it builds trust around this. And my colleague Max will be talking about some of those themes and those benefits a little bit later. But when implemented fully, right, this also has the effect of creating a common standard for analytics and AI in the enterprise, connecting to all of your different data, providing a core platform in which different types of users, engineers, data scientists, analysts, can work together to build the different projects that they need, but in close collaboration and in a shared platform with their operations engineers, who need to manage this in production with that seamless integration between that design and production environments. All of this sitting on top of your adaptive cloud-native infrastructure, now including, of course, the services and the foundational models that are so exciting today, but pushing out those results into the application layer. The application layer, which may be within Dataiku's native apps, Dataiku's visualization environment, or in third-party visualization applications, or of course, in your own custom applications that you're building throughout your enterprise. And importantly, all of this within a framework of governance. Governance that allows you to keep an eye on what's happening within your organization, which is very valuable from a business perspective. Why are we doing which initiative? Where is it at? What value is it delivering? But also in a context of risk mitigation and in the context of coming regulation, it's all the more important to have that governance framework as part of that platform. And just after me, we'll be hearing from Dr. Anastasia Lauterbach, who will be talking about those risks associated with AI and the critical importance that they have for enterprises. So if we have, of course, this common platform for analytics and AI in the enterprise, well, what is it required, right? This common standard first needs to be loved by all the different types of users, and this is something that we focus on, because we know that if the users don't actually love the tool provided to them, they're going to go find something else, and then you no longer have a common standard. It needs to be cloud-oriented, right? Even if not all data will go to the cloud, and we know that that's the case. We know that a lot of data will. That's where a lot of the work in the future will be done. And today, a lot of that data has made that transition, but the people have not in many cases. They're still downloading CSVs from those cloud environments if they're not some of the select few who actually have the access to those environments themselves. And so we need to change that dynamic. And of course, everything that this common standard needs to do needs to be production-oriented, meaning that we need to anticipate from the very first day, from the very first beginnings of a project in that design and experimentation phase, we need to anticipate that deployment. So this is Dataiku's founding vision and what we've been working on for the last 10 years. What have we been working on for the last year? Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Not that elephant, that's the elephant from the past. We're talking about this elephant, the generative AI elephant. Now, of course, generative AI has us all feeling many, many things. It's provoking a lot of emotions, and I think it's because it speaks our languages, and that's very human, right? It's very human feeling, creepy in a sense. But it might be having us feeling excited, of course. It might have us worried about our jobs, about the way it might transform our business, about the workload that it will bring to us. Might have us a bit lost as well. How do we use this? What do we use this for? And how do we keep up with the latest models which are coming out? I have something to admit. Me too, I'm feeling all those things too, and certainly have been feeling those over this past year as we've been working with our customers, working with all of you, to understand the implications, not only for Dataiku, but most importantly, for all of you, and how we can help you get there. What do you need to remember, though? How should you be thinking about generative AI? Generative AI is a tool, right? It's a wonderful tool. It's going to enable you to do entirely new things. It opens up new possibilities. It's exciting. It's brand new, as seen on TV. But at the same time, it's also a tool which needs to be part of a larger workshop. It's not a means, or it is only a means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself. It needs to be integrated, right? And we need to build a structure around it so it can be used effectively. So what is our recommendation to you? Our tip, number one, is to start with the most common types of applications. Working with our customers over the past year, we've identified 3 common types of applications. The first is structuring your data. Generative AI, these large language models, are extremely good at structuring unstructured data, finding entities, extracting them out of unstructured text, categorizing content based on sentiment. They're extremely good at that. 2 is, of course, generate. We're talking about generative AI. And so it's easy to imagine generating marketing copy and things like that, and we have customers doing just that. But also, of course, these models can generate code. They can generate analytics code, which is very exciting. It opens up new frontiers in terms of self-service analytics. And of course, they can answer questions, and it's becoming a very common technique to provide an answering system, a question and answer system built on a large language model, and we'll hear more about some of those techniques later on. Tip number 2, though, if you want to get started, how should you get started? Well, start simple, and then go and do some of the more fancy stuff. For us, we see the possibility to truly get started with these models straight out of the box, which is one of the things which is most remarkable about them, is that they just work. You ask them to do something, and in many cases, especially on simpler tasks, they do just that. But then, of course, you can take them further. We see this across 4 different levels, where you can start with those models out of the box. You can use them with pre-built components. Then, of course, you can go further, doing more and more sophisticated prompt engineering. We're looking to bring that to the masses through Dataiku. You can do more advanced techniques at level 3, retrieval augmented generation, which we'll be talking about a bit later. And of course, at level 4, you can go and do really exciting exotic stuff once you get there, and of course, once that's appropriate for your use case. Dataiku supports all of these different levels. We'll be talking about that in more detail later on today. But once again, the important thing to know is that it's possible to start very simple and to move on from there. Importantly, though, all of the different applications and all of the different techniques that you might use need to be built on top of a common architecture, common services. Because right now, what we see is that there is a gap between the generative AI services and infrastructure, the applications that you're going to be built. And what is needed is a common backbone. Once again, Dataiku needs to bridge a gap between the applications that you want to build and all of the very exciting services that are now available to you. You have accelerated computing with Dataiku partners like NVIDIA. You have all of these hosted LLM API services. You may have self-hosted LLMs. And of course, you have vector stores now. And what's important in this is being able to use these in an enterprise-appropriate, production-oriented way. And that's why Dataiku has announced the LLM mesh. And what Dataiku sees as the LLM mesh is the combination of services that are required to be able to use those models and those different services in production effectively in the organization, in an enterprise. And that, of course, starts with routing and orchestration. Routing and orchestration means that you can have choice among all of those different providers, that you're not stuck with one, that you can test different services amongst themselves to know which one is appropriate for which use case. Not every service, not every model is going to be appropriate for everything. You are going to be able to integrate new ones as they become available, because you're going to need to be able to move at speed as these new models evolve very quickly. But of course, it's not just about routing and orchestration. There's a lot of other valuable functionality as well. You need to be able to do cost reporting. You need to ensure that you can set permissions so that only the right data ever goes to the right model, so that only the right users ever have access to the right services. And of course, you need to accelerate common techniques like retrieval augmentation. This is all functionality that Dataiku provides, and in keeping with our philosophy, we're providing it in either our full code environment through the IDE of your choice, or of course in our low code or no code environment. So you can start building those applications on top of this common service layer, on top of those models, and actually deploy those generative AI applications out into the organization. So you might be looking at this picture and wondering, is this LLM ops? Is Dataiku launching itself into LLM ops? Well, yes and no. Yes and. Dataiku sees the picture more broadly than that. At Dataiku, when we think about operations, we think about what we call XOps as the merging between ML ops, data ops, and LLM ops. And that's very important because any single project may or may not include a machine learning model. It may or may not include an LLM. Not every project needs everything. Of course, other projects may include all of it. And so that's why Dataiku has always taken this very integrated view of operations and of production. Because if it's not in production, it's not delivering value, and if we're not delivering value in your organization, we have no reason to exist. And so Dataiku has invested heavily over the years in these ops, in XOps, and we're very proud of the functionality that we have today. So looking back, right, just to name a few things, we have our deployer environment, which is a fully CI/CD compliant environment for developing and then deploying assets, artifacts, out into either a QA environment, then into a pre-production environment, and then into production. Again, using your full code or the no-code functionality directly in Dataiku. Additionally, we have experiment tracking, right? So you can develop your experiments, track them using a common standard like MLflow, even if you're using full code, but still be able to interact with your colleagues across the organization, keeping track of all of your experiments. We have fully automated drift capabilities as well to make sure that the model is giving results and receiving inputs that are similar to that which it was trained on. And it doesn't stop there, right? We have universal feature importance, MLflow import and export, so you can bring models developed outside of Dataiku into Dataiku and vice versa. Take your models out of Dataiku and run them elsewhere. Model fairness reports allows you to detect potential bias within your models so that you can be sure that you are not having models that are causing problems or are in violation of either your policy or relevant regulation. and a more recent introduction with model overrides, which allows you to set business rules and set business intelligence within the predictive model itself so that it does not make inappropriate or incorrect or impossible predictions, and of course alerts you if it does. Now, looking forward, we're not done yet, of course. Looking into the roadmap on the XOps, we're going to be announcing soon the ability to bring models into Dataiku that were developed in Amazon SageMaker, Azure ML, Google Vertex, and of course, in the opposite direction, take your models developed in Dataiku and run them in those services. This is in keeping with Dataiku's vision of bridging the gaps between these different services such that an organization can use Dataiku as that common standard, even if certain teams are using certain services. If you have that common standard and it's integrating all of those different services, you need to have the ability to keep an eye on everything, which is where universal monitoring comes in, ensuring that you can have a bird's eye view on everything that's going on. So once again, Dataiku is bridging the gap, not only between different services, but also between design and production. So with everything that I've presented so far, LLMs, XOps, it may sound like Dataiku only cares about the biggest, most exciting, flashiest topics. But in fact, Dataiku has also been extremely focused on the day-to-day experience of all of our different users with all the different skills and all the different types of use that they have, and it's extremely diverse. Over the past year, we've done many things to improve that experience. Because once again, we know that it's very important for this common standard to be loved by the many, many different types of users that Dataiku has. And a lot of these improvements are based on user feedback, from perhaps people in the room here. So thank you to all of that feedback. We truly appreciate it. What else is coming? Well, as more and more organizations bring more and more people onto the platform, we're revamping entirely our user onboarding experience. This is going to be important as, once again, Dataiku becomes the common standard in organizations. More people are going to be coming on the platform, which means it needs to be even easier for them to do so. Additionally, we all know that data quality is absolutely essential for production-grade projects. And so we're revamping entirely our data quality functionality. We have a lot in there already, but it's getting a complete redo to make sure that you have a global view of data quality across your organization. Anyone who uses Dataiku knows that the flow is really one of the central environments for Dataiku. And so Dataiku is going to be updating the flow experience for our users, giving new filters, new views to make it easier to explore, especially large and complex flows. And something that we're not quite ready to fully introduce today, but we are working on a fundamentally new way to share insights and to present insights and to tell stories about your data in the organization. I can't say too much more now, but we are excited for that and looking forward to that coming out very soon. Not quite done yet. Just one more thing. Quote, I'm actually wearing my Colombo. That's my most Colombo coat that I have, jacket that I have. When we're thinking about GenAI, and this is our GenAI background, looks like Minecraft, but when we're thinking about GenAI, of course, Dataiku is mostly focused, as you've understood, about helping you build GenAI applications yourself. But also, there's another application for GenAI, and that's within Dataiku itself. And so Dataiku is working on building GenAI-powered assistants throughout the platform for all different users. It's going to include things like AI-enhanced data preparation, code assistance, so Copilot-like functionality throughout the platform, code notebooks, and in code studios. And something I'm very excited about, flow explanation and documentation, auto-generated, 100% accurate, based on your work. So we're working on this. It's all very exciting. So I want to leave you with a nice picture, and of course the thought that by bridging these gaps, by building those bridges, you can have actually a common standard for AI and analytics in the environment. Now, that might seem like a very ambitious, unbelievable idea in some cases. It's often what I'm confronted with when I present it to somebody who's not familiar with Dataiku yet. What I can say to reassure you is, one, of course, Dataiku has been at this for 10 years, building this vision. But of course, you don't have to take my word for it. And that's why I'm looking forward also to all of our customer speakers who will be up here on this stage today, sharing with you their version of this story, because every version is different. Every organization uses Dataiku differently, but ultimately they're still getting the same benefits, materialized in different ways. So thank you to all of our customers. Thank you, of course, to our sponsors. And thank you, of course, to Rachel for all the organization. We're looking forward to the rest of this day with you all. Thank you.